Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Julia, and today we're going to talk about something that every English learner dreams of: how to speak like a native speaker. Have you ever listened to native English speakers and thought, wow, they speak so fast and naturally? How can I sound like that? Well, don't worry, you are not alone. Many English learners feel the same way. But here's the good news: you can learn to speak naturally and confidently, even if English is not your first language. In today's episode, we'll explore simple, practical steps to help you sound more natural and fluent. You'll learn what speaking like a native really means, how to improve your pronunciation and rhythm, how to use natural expressions and connected speech, and how to practice every day to build your confidence. My goal is to make this lesson easy to understand and fun to follow. So even if you're a beginner, you can learn something new today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover how you can make your English sound smooth, natural, and confident, just like a native speaker. Let's get started. Before we learn how to speak like a native, let's first understand what it really means. Many English learners think that speaking like a native means having a perfect American or British accent, using difficult words, or speaking very fast. But that's not true. You don't need to sound exactly like someone from London or New York to speak like a native. Speaking like a native actually means sounding natural and comfortable when you speak English. It's about using the right rhythm, tone, and expressions, not about being perfect. Native speakers often speak in a relaxed way. They don't always use full grammar or long sentences. For example, instead of saying "I do not know," they simply say "I don't know." Or instead of "I am going to," they say "I'm gonna." These small things make their speech sound smooth and natural. Also, remember, you don't have to lose your accent. Your accent is part of who you are. The goal is to be clear, confident, and natural, not to sound exactly like someone else. So speaking like a native means speaking with flow, emotion, and confidence, just like you're having a real conversation. Now that we understand what it really means, let's look at what makes native speakers sound different and what we can learn from them. Now let's talk about some of the biggest differences between native and non-native English speakers. Understanding these differences can help you know what to focus on when you practice. First, let's talk about rhythm and pronunciation. Native speakers have a special rhythm when they speak. Some words are said quickly, and some are stressed more strongly. For example, listen to this sentence: "What are you doing?" A native speaker might say it like this: "What you doing?" They connect the words together and speak smoothly. This is called connected speech, and it's one reason they sound so natural. Second, native speakers often use contractions. Instead of saying "I am," they say "I'm." Instead of "do not," they say "don't." Using contractions helps you sound more fluent and relaxed. Third, they use many natural expressions and idioms. For example, instead of saying "I'm very tired," a native speaker might say "I'm worn out" or "I'm beat." These small changes make your English sound more like real life. And finally, non-native speakers often think too much about grammar while speaking. Native speakers focus more on communication and flow. Remember, speaking is about expressing yourself, not about being perfect. So the main idea is, if you want to sound like a native, focus on rhythm, connection, and natural expressions, not just grammar rules. Now, let's talk about pronunciation and intonation, two very important parts of speaking like a native speaker. First, pronunciation is how we say words clearly and correctly. But sounding natural is not only about saying each word perfectly, it's about the music of English, the stress, rhythm, and flow of your voice. In English, we don't give equal stress to every word. Some words are strong and others are soft. For example, in the sentence, "I want to go to the park," a native speaker usually stresses want and park. It sounds like, "I want to go to the park." When you practice this kind of rhythm, your speech will sound smoother and more natural. Now let's talk about intonation. That's the rise and fall of your voice when you speak. For example, when asking a question like, "Are you okay?" your voice goes up at the end. But when saying something like, "I'm fine," your voice goes down at the end. Intonation helps express feelings, surprise, happiness, doubt, or confidence. It's what makes English sound alive and emotional. Here's a quick tip. When you listen to movies or podcasts, try to copy the rhythm and tone, not just the words. Repeat the way native speakers raise or lower their voices. This is called shadowing, and it's one of the best ways to improve your pronunciation and intonation. Now let's talk about one of the biggest secrets to sounding like a native speaker, using natural phrases and expressions. Native speakers don't always speak in perfect grammar or full sentences. They use short, natural expressions that make conversations sound friendly and real. For example, instead of saying, "How are you today?" they often say, "Hey, how's it going?" or "What's up?" These are common, relaxed ways to greet someone. Or instead of "I don't understand," they might say, "I don't get it," or "I'm not sure what you mean." You see, these small changes make your speech sound more natural and conversational. Another way to sound native is to learn phrasal verbs. For example, turn on the light instead of open the light. Pick up the phone instead of answer the phone. Native speakers use phrasal verbs all the time, so the more you learn them, the more natural your English will sound. Also, try to learn idioms, simple ones like break the ice to start a conversation or hit the books to study. They add life and color to your speaking. Here's a tip. Every time you learn a new expression, use it in a real sentence. Practice it aloud or write it down in a small notebook. Now let's talk about something very important, connected speech. Connected speech means that native speakers join their words together when they talk. They don't always say every word clearly and separately like in a textbook. For example, a native speaker won't usually say, "Do you want to?" They'll say it quickly, like, "Do you wanna?" Or instead of "I am going to," they'll say, "I'm gonna." This connection between words makes their English sound smooth, natural, and fast. Let's look at another example. "What are you doing?" A native speaker might say, "What you doing?" At first, this might sound strange or too fast, but with practice, your ears will get used to it. Here's a good way to practice. Listen to native speakers in movies, YouTube videos, or podcasts. Try to repeat exactly what they say, copy not just the words, but also how they connect them. This method is called shadowing, and it's one of the best exercises to improve fluency. You can also record yourself speaking a sentence slowly, and then again using connected speech. Listen to both and notice the difference. You'll sound much more natural the second time. So remember, connected speech is not about speaking too fast, it's about speaking smoothly, like your words are flowing together. Now let's talk about something many learners forget: listening. To speak like a native, you first need to listen like a native. When you listen carefully, you start to notice the rhythm, tone, and common expressions that native speakers use every day. Listening helps your brain get used to natural English. It's like training your ear to understand how English really sounds. So, how can you do that? You don't need to live in an English-speaking country. You can create your own English world around you. For example, listen to English podcasts like this one every day. Watch movies and TV shows with English subtitles. Listen to English songs and read the lyrics. Or follow YouTube channels where people speak naturally. When you listen, don't just focus on understanding every word. Instead, listen to how they speak the stress, the pauses, and how they connect words. Try repeating short parts from what you hear. This helps you copy their pronunciation and rhythm. Even just 10 or 15 minutes of active listening every day can make a big difference in how you speak. So remember, good speakers are also good listeners. The more you listen, the more natural your English will sound. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful tips to speak like a native thinking in English. Many learners make the mistake of translating every word from their native language before speaking. This makes your speech slow and unnatural. Native speakers don't translate, they just think and speak directly in English. So, how can you start thinking in English? You can begin with small, simple steps. For example, when you wake up in the morning, describe what you're doing in English. I'm brushing my teeth, I'm making breakfast. These short sentences help your brain switch to English mode. Another tip: when you see something around you, name it in English. Say chair, book, phone, or window. Doing this often will train your brain to think automatically in English words. You can also plan your day in English or talk to yourself quietly in English about what you're doing or feeling. It might feel strange at first, but it really works. The goal is to make English part of your daily thoughts, not something you only use in class or practice time. When you think in English, you stop translating, your speech becomes faster, and you start sounding more fluent and natural, just like a native speaker. Now let's talk about practical ways to practice speaking every day. You don't need a partner to improve your speaking. You can start right at home. Here are some simple ideas. Talk to yourself in English about your day or your plans. Record your voice and listen to it. Notice your pronunciation and flow. Shadow native speakers from movies, podcasts, or YouTube. Repeat exactly how they speak. Use language apps or voice assistants to practice speaking. The key is consistency. Even 10 to 15 minutes every day is better than one long practice session once a week. Remember, speaking naturally is like exercising a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger and smoother it becomes. Now let's talk about something very important: confidence. Many learners hesitate to speak because they are afraid of making mistakes. But here's the truth: even native speakers make mistakes. Mistakes are a normal part of learning. The secret is to focus on communicating, not being perfect. Speak slowly, clearly, and with confidence. Pretend you're having a real conversation with a friend. A simple tip: smile while you speak. It helps your voice sound natural and relaxed. Also, Remind yourself, every time you speak, you are improving. Confidence comes with practice and patience. The more you speak, the more natural and comfortable you will feel. Now it's time for a mini practice activity. This will help you use natural phrases, connected speech, and pronunciation, everything we've talked about today. Here's what we'll do. I'll say a few sentences like a native speaker, and I want you to repeat after me. Try to copy the rhythm, intonation, and connected words exactly. Hey, how's it going? Notice how the words flow together. I'm gonna grab some coffee. Practice saying gonna instead of going to. What are you up to today? Notice how what are you becomes whatcha. I don't get it. Instead of saying I do not understand, use the natural form. Try repeating these sentences 3 to 5 times each. You can also record yourself and compare it with how I said them. Doing this every day, even for just a few minutes, will make your English sound much more natural and confident. Before we finish today's episode, I want to share some final advice and motivation. Remember, speaking like a native doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, not a race. Every small step you take listening, practicing, repeating, and thinking in English brings you closer to speaking naturally and confidently. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Each mistake is a learning opportunity. Even native speakers make mistakes, but they keep speaking, and that's how they get better. Stay consistent. Even 10 to 15 minutes of practice every day is better than long sessions once a week. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress, no matter how small. The key is to enjoy the process. Speak English like it's part of your life with confidence, flow, and fun. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep speaking, and I promise you will see improvement step by step. And that's a wrap for today's episode on how to speak like a native. I hope you found these tips useful and easy to follow. Remember, speaking naturally is all about practice, listening, thinking in English, and staying confident. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the English Learning Podcast so you never miss a new lesson. Leave a comment below and tell me which tip you're going to try first. I'd love to hear from you. Also, share this podcast with your friends or anyone who wants to speak English more naturally. The more you practice together, the faster you'll improve. Thank you so much for listening today. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember your English can sound natural and confident, one step at a time. I'm Julia, and I'll see you in the next episode. Happy speaking!